Have you ever wondered what happens when a god falls in love with a mortal? The story of Crown Prince, the Hua, and the mortal girl, Su, is a heart-wrenching tale of love, sacrifice, and cosmic misunderstanding that will leave you breathless. Get ready! Because we're about to dive deep into a celestial drama that spans heavens and earth. The sky cracked open with thunder and lightning, a war cry from the heavens themselves.
On the battlefield, Crown Prince, the Hua, cloaked in celestial armor, led his heavenly soldiers against the fierce mermaid clan.
Swords clashed, and spells lit up the storm-darkened sea, a symphony of destruction. Far away, in a humble thatched hut nestled in the mortal realm, Su heard the distant rumble of thunder. A sudden, inexplicable panic seized her heart. She clutched a small bronze mirror, her only connection to the man she loved. "The Hua," she whispered into its polished surface, her voice trembling. "The Hua, can you hear me?" Silence. The mirror remained dark, unresponsive. A chilling fear crept into her soul. He always answered. Always. As night fell, her unease grew into a monstrous dread. Sleep was impossible. She sat vigil by her bed, the cold bronze mirror held tightly in her hands, her eyes fixed on its empty surface, waiting for a sign, a word, anything. Back on the chaotic battlefield, the fight reached its brutal climax. The Hua faced the leader of the merfolk, their blades a blur of silver light. In a fatal exchange, the mermaid leader's sword struck true, cutting deep into the Hua's side. At the same moment, the Hua's own blade found its mark, felling his opponent. A collective gasp, then a frantic cry, erupted from the heavenly soldiers. "Your Highness!" The Hua. Their desperate calls echoed through the bronze mirror. In her quiet hut, Su heard them. She couldn't see the blood, the chaos, or the fallen prince. She only heard the raw panic in their voices, the repetition of his name, over and over. The Hua, the Hua. The sound was a knife to her heart. What was happening? Was he hurt? Was he? Her mind refused to form the word. Terror, pure and absolute, propelled her into action. She burst out of the hut, into the raging storm, her small figure dwarfed by the immense, uncaring wilderness. She was a lost leaf in a tempest, running with no direction, her only guide, the frantic beating of her own heart. She screamed his name into the wind and rain, a desperate plea to a deaf heaven. The Hua. It was a sound of pure agony, the cry of a soul being torn apart. On the battlefield, as the Hua collapsed, the bronze mirror slipped from his grasp, falling onto the blood-soaked ground. It was Su Jin, another celestial being with a complicated connection to the prince, who found it. She picked it up, just in time to hear Su's final, desperate shriek. A cruel, knowing smile touched Sujin's lips. An opportunity had just fallen into her hands. Following the sound of that heart-wrenching cry, Sujin descended to the mortal realm and found the distraught Su. Before Su could even process what was happening, Sujin whisked her away. Not to safety, but straight into the lion's den. The heavenly palace. Su found herself standing in a vast, intimidating hall, surrounded by divine beings whose cold gazes made her feel smaller than an ant. The heavenly emperor, a figure of immense power and authority, sat on his throne, his voice booming through the hall. "Who are you? And what is your relationship with Crown Prince?" The sudden shift from her simple hut to this celestial court was overwhelming. Frightened and confused, Su couldn't find her voice. She was at a complete loss, her mind still reeling from the fear for the Hua. Seeing her silence, the emperor's face hardened. He declared that she would be taken to the demon-locking tower. Su didn't know what this place was, but the name alone sent shivers of primal fear down her spine. The whispers and horrified looks of the other immortals told her it was a place from which no one returned. Just as the guards were about to seize her, a graceful figure entered the hall. It was Empress Su, the Hua's mother. Seeing a glimmer of hope, Su fell to her knees before the Empress. "Please, save me. I beg you," she cried, tears streaming down her face. Desperation gave her courage. With no other card to play, Susu revealed her most precious secret. She leaned in and whispered, her voice shaking but firm. I am carrying the Hua's child. Empress Lasu's eyes widened. She reached out and gently took Susu's wrist, her divine senses checking her pulse. A flicker of astonishment, then profound emotion crossed her face. It was true. With the Hua's own life hanging in the balance after the battle, this unborn child was now the only remaining piece of him, the future of the heavenly lineage. A mother's love is a powerful force, even in the heavens. Empress Ep6 Ye Hua, determined to protect her son's legacy, turned to the heavenly emperor. She risked everything, pleading, begging, and bargaining for the life of this unknown mortal girl. She argued that for the sake of the Hua's bloodline, Susu had to be spared. The heavenly emperor, moved by his wife's desperate pleas and the gravity of the situation, finally relented. He would not send Susu to the demon-locking tower, but he would not welcome her either. Susu was to be imprisoned. Her new home was to be Jihuai Palace, a deserted and isolated corner of the heavens, a gilded cage where she would await the birth of her child, alone and uncertain of the fate of the man she loved. And so, the mortal girl who had captured a god's heart was now a prisoner in his world. Her simple life was shattered, and her future was now entwined with the complex politics and cold indifference of the heavenly realm. After this series of twists and turns and shocks, Susu suffered abdominal pain and collapsed to the ground after being locked up in Jihuai Palace. After the Hua was stabbed in the face during the battle, his life was in danger. Fortunately, he managed to save his soul and avoid being reduced to ashes. After waking up, Lian Song told the Hua that on the night he was injured 3 days ago, Susu escaped from the immortal barrier he had set up and was discovered by the Emperor of Heaven. Upon hearing this, the Hua was so emotional that he wanted to go to the heavenly palace to save Susu. Lian Song hurriedly dissuaded the Hua, saying that Susu's life was not in danger for the time being. Only then did the Hua slowly calm down. The Hua told Lian Song that there was only one way to save Susu's life now, and that was to make the Emperor of Heaven believe that Susu had no weight in his heart. Only then would the Emperor of Heaven be likely to let Susu go. Ling Bao Tianzun was going to hold a Dharma assembly and sent invitations to all corners of the world. Zhuan took the opportunity to send the invitations to come to the mortal world to find Li Jing. Zhuan told Li Jing that she was pregnant with his child. Even though Li Jing disliked Zhuan so much, the moment he heard about the child, his heart softened. The Hua was already seriously injured, and his constant worry about Susu made it difficult for him to recover. Imprisoned in Jihuai Palace, Susu was equally tormented, not knowing whether the Hua was dead or alive. Susu only had the bronze mirror in her hand, but the Hua's mirror was in Sujin's possession. Fengju heard from Sima Ming that the Hua had provoked a mortal woman in the mortal world. She felt sorry for her aunts and secretly went to Jihuai Palace, where Susu was imprisoned, to see who was trying to compete with her for the throne. However, the 1,000-year-old iron on the door prevented Fengju from entering, so she could only shout at Susu from outside. Susu was imprisoned there all day, and the fairies who brought her food refused to speak to her. When Susu heard Fengju's voice, she frantically asked if she knew how the Hua was doing. Unfortunately, Fengju had been in Taikan Palace all her life and knew very little about the Hua's affairs. Now she had no idea where the Hua was or whether he was dead or alive. For some reason, Fengju could not hate this mortal, and even felt pity for him.
Li Jing and Zhuan Vi came to the heavenly palace to attend the Dharma assembly of Lingbao.
After arriving at the palace where they were staying, Zhuan felt unbearable pain in her abdomen. Li Jing left first because of something. The witch doctor took Zhuanvi's pulse and found that the little prince in Zhuanvi's body had no heartbeat. This was a big deal. The witch doctor did not dare to hide it and had to tell Zhuan everything. Zhuan was greedy for Li Jing's rare patience with her after she had a child. She threatened the witch doctor with the lives of his entire clan and he must ensure that she gave birth to this child at all costs. Li Jing came to the Lotus Pond to see Han Yu Fukyu, who had been sent to the Heavenly Palace that year. He happened to meet Ling Bao Tianzi as they were reminiscing about the past. A fire suddenly broke out from the direction of Zhuhai Palace.
Li Jing rushed to put out the fire and rushed into Zhaoren Palace to save the unconscious Susu. Seeing Susu's appearance, Li Jing was shocked.
He carried Susu back to the palace and asked the witch doctor to treat her. Li Jing was convinced that the woman before him was Si Yin, but the sorcerer told him that she was just a mortal woman. After calming down, Li Jing realized that she had no aura of immortality at all. She was indeed a mortal, which made Li Jing's heart plummet again. After Susu woke up, she timidly asked Li Jing if he had ever met the Hua. The Hua didn't understand how a mortal woman could be involved with the prince of the celestial clan. At this moment, Empress Lisu came to take Susu away from the Hua. As Susu left, the sorcerer quietly told Li Jing that this mortal woman was pregnant. The celestial emperor went to Shanghai to see the Hua, who was injured. He intended to test the Hua's attitude towards Susu. The Hua calmed himself and told him that Susu had taken care of him when he was injured in the battle with the golden lion beast that day. And now that Susu was pregnant, he could count this as his repayment for her kindness. The celestial emperor temporarily believed the Hua's words, telling him that since this mortal had the blood of a celestial, he would let Susu stay in the celestial palace for the time being and make plans after the child was born. In front of the emperor and the Hua, Su Jin offered to grant Susu a concubine. The emperor was furious and firmly disagreed with granting a mortal a concubine. The Hua knew that although Su Jin was pleading for him, she actually wanted the emperor to completely abandon his idea of granting Grace a UA concubine. After Su Jin and Tian Jun left, Su Jin gave the bronze mirror to Tian Jun. Su Jin told Tian Jun that if the Hua really didn't pay attention to this person, why would he give him such a precious magic weapon? In order to prevent the Hua from repeating Sangji's mistakes, Tianjun knew that this matter must be treated with caution. Tianjun ordered Su Jin to keep an eye on Susu for him. The Hua S-guards returned to Shanghai from the Heavenly Palace and reported to the Hua about the latest situation in the Heavenly Palace. The soldiers told the UAA that there was an accidental fire in Jahua Palace yesterday, which almost hurt Susu. The Hua was anxious when he heard this, and regardless of his own injuries, he ordered to return to the Heavenly Palace immediately. Susu had been receiving training from Empress Lisu. The Hua returned to the Heavenly Palace and came to his mother. Susu finally got to see the Hua. She excitedly called the Hua's name and wanted to come forward, but the Hua looked indifferent, as if Susu was just an unrelated stranger. The Hua was determined not to let anyone see how much he cared about Susu for the sake of Susu's life. Fengju served Donghua, testing her, told her that he had seen her coming from the direction of Shiwu Palace a few days ago.
Besides Shiwu Palace, that direction also held Juxian Terrace. He asked her what she was doing there.
Fengju panicked and lied, saying she was going to Juxian Terrace to admire the moon.
Donghua smiled faintly at Fengju's nonsense.
Simming privately told Fengju that Juxian Terrace was an unlucky place for the gods. Fengju, upon hearing this, felt truly humiliated. The Hua finally got rid of the crowd and came to meet Yalan Feng Hua and Susu alone. The Hua dismissed all the fairies sent by Lisu and only brought a little fairy named Nana from his own palace, who had just come from the mortal world to take care of Susu's daily life. Susu knew that the Hua was actually the prince of the 9 heavens. She finally understood why the Hua had always refused to take her to meet his family. The Hua told Susu to be careful with her words and actions in Shiwu Palace in the future. Not only that, he would be indifferent to her in front of outsiders. But this was all to protect her and to prevent people from noticing her existence. Although Susu did not understand why, she believed whatever the Hua said. After the Hua returned to the Heavenly Palace, he had been dealing with official business. Susu was left alone in the palace, lonely and isolated, with only the maid Nana to accompany her. In order to hide Susu's presence from others, The Hua had to use his magic to become invisible, even when visiting her. Su Jin came to see Su Su, boasting about growing up with the Hua, deliberately using this to provoke Su Su. Su Jin lied to Su Su that there was a Dharma assembly going on, and Empress La Su asked her to take Su to see the excitement. Su Su believed Su Jin's words and followed her. Of course, she didn't know that from the moment she stepped out of the door, a trap was waiting for her. Su Jin took Su Su all the way to Lingbao Tianzun's Shangqing realm. On the way, they met Sang Ji and Shao Xin. Shao Xin was pregnant now, and her body was very heavy. When Shao Xin saw Su Su for the first time, if this person did not have any fairy spirit, Shao Xin would have really thought she saw Aunt Bai Qian. The Heavenly Emperor had specifically ordered that in order to avoid adverse effects on the Hua, all those who knew Su Su's origins must keep it a secret. However, Su Jin wanted to make Su the laughingstock of the 9 heavens, letting everyone know that Su Su was a nameless and unnamed woman. Su Jin deliberately told Sangji that Su Su was the Hua's benefactor in the mortal world, and that she was now pregnant with the Hui's child, so she came to the heavenly palace. After being introduced by Su Jin, Sangji said that she did not expect the Hua to have such a fleeting romance. Before the Dharma assembly began, the Hua went to Lingbao, Tianzun Shangqing realm, to recuperate. Su Jin brought Su Su to Shangqing realm, and happened to see the Hua discussing something with Tian.
Su Jin brought Su Su here on purpose.
She deliberately let Su Su hear the conversation between the two. Tianjun asked the Hua not to delay his marriage with Chinku Bai Qian because of a mortal. The Hua agreed in front of Tianjun, and was seen by Su Su. Su Su was discovered and scolded by the Heavenly Emperor. The Hua was uneasy when Su Jin brought Su Su here. Su Jin pretended to be kind and brought Su Su to see the Hua. The Hua warned Su Jin that it was not her turn as an outsider to interfere in the affairs of Shiwu Palace. Su Jin was scolded by the Hua and left in anger. The Hua specifically told Su Su not to have too much contact with Su Jin. On the way to Yilanfang, the Hua saw Sangji and Shao Xin kneeling before the Emperor of Heaven. Sangji was trying to use the taboo of today as Dharma assembly to ask the Emperor to grant Shao Xin a proper status. The Emperor of Heaven still couldn't let go of Sangji's matter, so he didn't agree to Sangji's request. Nana came to Shangqing realm with the Jade Purity Kunlun fan. Someone secretly used magic to trip Nana, causing the Jade Purity Kunlun fan to fall to the ground, alarming Lingbao Tianzun's mount, the Fire Phoenix. The Fire Phoenix still had evil nature and attacked everyone, seriously injuring things. Li Jing desperately tried to subdue the Phoenix. Sima Ming hurriedly brought Feng Zhu back to Taikan Palace, and Dong Hua ordered everyone to leave. Dong Hua expended his magical powers to save Fenju.
Upon waking, Fenju felt deeply guilty.
She had intended to repay the Emperor's kindness, but instead had caused him to expend his own magical powers to save her. Not wanting to bring shame to Chinku, Fengju decided to sneak away. However, her wounds had not yet healed, and Fenju had no strength left. She fainted at the gate of Taikan Palace. Dong Hua passed by and carried her back. The Hua took the blame for Su Su and apologized to the Heavenly Emperor, saying that he was the one who gave the Jade Purity Kunlun fan to Su Su. Su Su wanted to defend herself, but the Hua was worried that Su Su would anger the Heavenly Emperor and take her life. In front of everyone, the Hua scolded Su Su and did not allow her to speak. Su Su looked at the Hua's majestic and indifferent face and was speechless for a moment. Lingbao Tianzun came to apologize to the Heavenly Emperor, and for Lingbao Tianzun's sake, the matter was let go. The Hua punished Su Su and Nana in front of everyone, and everyone in Yilanfang Hua was under house arrest. Without his order, no one was allowed to leave Yilanfang Hua. It seemed like a punishment, but in fact, the Hua wanted to use house arrest to protect Su Su. The Emperor asked Su Jin why she pleaded for that mortal. Su Jin volunteered to get rid of Su Su for the Emperor. But in return, Su Jin asked the Emperor to give her to the Hua as a concubine. The Emperor agreed to Su Jin's request. Far from over. Thank you so much for watching this epic tale unfold with us. If you're as captivated by this story as we are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for the next chapter. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss a thing. We'll see you in the next video.